Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're going to be covering another Datamine which basically just happened at the 11th hour before the update comes out. Now there's always some little things that they try and sneak in just before the update comes, and it looks like we now have an extra bit that they're trying to sneak in as well on top of the stuff that we had beforehand. Also, there's a bunch of BR changes in this one, and generally I don't like when BR changes are snuck in. I didn't like it last BR changes when they did that a month or so ago, and now they're doing some more. I would rather, personally, that these would happen, or at least be announced to happen, at least a few days before they do, so therefore we could have some discussions about them. We could be able to, put our thoughts through the forums and other areas, but sneaking them in at the 11th hour never feels good, and I will always be against it. Anyway, let's go through the dev changes and see what has changed. Once again, thank you to Zabby for providing this for the community. It's always a wonderful thing that data miners do for the community to let everybody know what's going on. There will be a link in the description to the post so you can have a look at all of the changes which are going on, including a bunch of slight ones such as 1 second burst mass changes, which we won't cover in this video. So there will be new option text on top of the ones we already had. So countermeasure series periods, and also countermeasure periods. This obviously makes sense just to add on to the countermeasure stuff which we had before when it came to flares and also chaff. So they're just expanding that mechanic. It looks like they're going to bring it in a pretty big way for a bunch of vehicles. Then the A7D. So the A7D, its BR and RB is going from 9.7 to 10.0. This is obviously because they've added Mavericks to it, and those Mavericks I'm pretty sure will be very strong after testing them in general on the dev server, and also understanding how the mechanic works and how everything is going to go out. These are going to be very good in a ground realistic, especially if you are able to early spawn them, which I'm sure a lot of people will be able to do if they have mastered machines such as the HSTVL. So now with this thing being at 10.0, at least 8.7s won't be able to get annihilated by it, but it still will wreak havoc on the BRs around it. One thing to also mention is this affects it in RRB as well, so with its attacker spawn that it has, it won't be as good as it was before, but I'm sure it'll still be able to hold its weight with the impressive weaponry that the machine has. Another thing to note about the A7D is with the full Mavericks, yes, you can counter them with stuff such as smoke or breaking line of sight, but that means that you have to know they're coming in, and generally that is something which is quite hard to do. When these new mechanics are added to the game, I would rather they were added to a bunch of different machines instead of just a single one, but if they're just testing the mechanic to see what it is and then it's going to get expanded upon, then I suppose that's fair enough. And the last thing is there is still a nation out there. That's right, the Chinese. They have literally no counter to the A7D. There is absolutely no counter to this machine in the tech tree when it comes to ground. When it comes to air, I suppose you could shoot it down if you ever get into an aircraft, but still, it is ridiculous that we have more of these mechanics which are going to terrorize ground vehicles, and there are nations in the game that do not have any sort of counter to them, and that is a problem and it needs to be rectified. There was also a bunch of different little things added to many machines. Basically, engine sounds were changed across the board for a lot of machines, so they'll probably sound a lot or a little bit different. They've also changed once again the pressure damage stuff, such as the following vehicles no longer have pressure damage but have hull break instead. So the ZBD 86, the R3T20 FAHS, the M3 Bradley, the BMP-1P, and the BMP-2. My guess is whatever this pressure damage thing is going on, it isn't fully ready yet, so therefore they're going to maybe bring it in at a later date. Hopefully we get a devlog about it. My feeling is the pressure damage idea is the thing that's supposed to eventually replace hull break. but my guess it's just not fully ready yet. The Oliphant Mark II is also getting some interesting changes. They've removed a 29mm plate from it, and also it no longer has composite armor visible in the X-ray, so that's kind of a weird one. They've also made a bunch of changes to the T2. They've added a gyroscopic sight, removed the AN/APS-21 and AN/APG-26 radars, and added the APG-59 radar, so we'll have to see how that affects the vehicle. The other changes they've also done to BRs, so the SK105A2, so both of them, the one that's coming to Germany and also coming to France, it's gone from 9.0 to 8.3. I think this is basically fine. The machine itself lost its stabilizer between the dev servers, and if you compare the other 9.0 light vehicles that are around the place, or the 9.0, 9.3, ones, I think A3 makes a lot more sense for it, just because of its general usability. The T55E1 is also going from 4.0 to 4.3, so a lot of people seem to have been doing really well in that machine, running around and having a bit of fun with it, so that's going up. The M3A3 Bradley is going down from 9.3 to 8.7, and all I can say is I compare the M3A3 Bradley to the BMP3, which is also at 8.7, or the BMP2M, or, you know, any of the other, the Object 685 that is there. I would take the Bradley over all of them in a heartbeat. The M3A3 Bradley has so many nice features to it. At 8.7, it's going to do really well, and it's going to fit into a pretty baller lineup as well. The Rakuten Jagdpanzer 2 Hot is going down to 8.0. This is kind of a surprise personally. I thought the machine was fine at 8.3. Its general usability I don't think will change that much going down to 8.0. I suppose it just means that maybe you can use it a little bit more in certain lineups, but yeah, it's really not going to change too much. The Roycat MTTD is going from 9.0 to 8.7. This won't really change it because there isn't really an 8.7 lineup for Britain. You know, you have the Chieftains at 8.3, then you have the Chieftain Mark 10, I believe it is, at 9.0. If anything, the Chieftain Mark 10 should be the one going down to 8.7, not the Roycat MTTD, or maybe both should go down to 8.7. The Mars 15 is going from 8.3 to 8.0. So that machine is also going down in BR. Once again, we haven't really played it, so therefore it's going to be interesting to see how that affects it. And the AMX 13 Hot is also going down once again. Once again, the AMX 13 Hot moving down in BR. It started off at 8.7, now is at 8.0. It is getting more closer to where it should be, which is around the 7.3, area. The AMX 13 Hot is a bad vehicle. It is very hard to play because of the angle of its missiles and the fact that you have to expose yourself to use the missiles. And on top of this, you have a chassis which is way overweight compared to what it's used to, and the gun itself is no use against a lot of the heavies that it faces. Hopefully this thing keeps going down in BR and eventually will get to where it belongs. So yeah, those are the general changes to see what is going on. Hopefully you enjoy the update tomorrow. As I said, I'm going to be streaming bright and early when the update is out, probably around about 2 or 3 a.m. PST, so make sure to check out the Twitch then. And as always, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Teddy, John Ryman, Universe, Conte Baraka, Trigger Hippie, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Hosest Kishore, Hans, Bareen, and Samuel Schlick for supporting the channel.